metal mug down. If I get my torch, which is hanging in the tree, and put that on, with a bit of luck. In fact, that'll be fine. You can see it is actually starting to drip into the mug. Now this is a long process, but the fact of the matter is there's no moving parts, there's no working parts to this filter system, so it's actually really good. It's so simple, it's very cheap, and it really does work. And we're going to wait, I guess from experience, it's probably going to be about half an hour before that cup's full, and then once it's full we're going to fire that on the fire and we're going to boil it up, and it's really as simple as that. Once it's boiled, it's perfectly safe to drink. The millbank is taking out all of the organic matter, leaf litter, etc. that we managed to drag up from that stream. That'll all be in the bottom of the bag once that water's come through. Okay, so I guess I'll leave that one there for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, cheers. Hello, back again. Now, I wanted to demonstrate cooking a fish over a fire tonight. Unfortunately, I never got any permit to go and catch fish, and I don't want to go poaching fish because it's against the law, and I don't want to promote that in any way, shape or form. So the only thing I've brought in out with that bag is a fish. Like I said, I'm not interested in poaching. I think it sets a bad example. So it would have been easy for me to sit here and pretend I've just caught this fish, but it's not the case, and I'm not going to lie to you. So I bought the fish. On the way up here, I managed to find some ramsons, and they're going to make this fish just taste a little bit nice. I just want you to have a look at that. This plant can be confused with another one called Lily of the Valley. And the best way that you can find is take one of the leaves of the ramsons, crush it up, have a good smell of it. If it smells like garlic, it is garlic. Lily of the Valley does not smell like that, and that's how you tell the difference between the two. But please just roll it around in your hands. You can see the garlic starting to come off that, and it's unmistakable. So that's going to make this fish taste a little bit better. So what we've got here is a trout. I asked at the shop that they never cleaned it for me because I wanted to go through the whole process of how we do this and how we cook it on the fire. And what I have is I've kind of done some prep. To do this, what you need is you need a stick to cook it on. That's hazel, which is Corylus avellana, and we'll cook over the fire with that. It's always best to cut fresh hazel because it's nice and green and it won't burst into flames. Unfortunately, I never got two small bits to do the cross members, so I've had to try and find a couple of sticks up here, and hopefully they'll do the job. So I've got them there, and the next thing we need is something to tie the top of the stick. And what we do is, again, I don't want to use cordage because it's just going to melt down and make the fish taste horrible. I want to use some natural cordage, and there's one such vine. It's actually still in the ground, and I'm going to use that to tie the top of the stick off. Eventually I'll cut that out of the ground and I'll clean off all the little bits and pieces, and then that'll fasten the top of the stick, and we'll come on to that in a minute. And I'd also like to point out that the only light I'm using is the two torches that I brought with me. One, the Trust 2 from Luma Power, which is actually up on the tree shining down, and the other one is my Petzl E-Light emergency torch. So anyway, let's get stuck in about this fish. And now I'm lying down here, so forgive me if it's going to be sort of messy. The first thing we need to do with the fish is clean it. And the way we do that is simply hold our fingers on the belly and push down. I'll do it over the fire, so forgive me. It's just obviously I don't want that round the campsite. So I don't know if you heard the fish squeaking there, but you should get some air that comes out. It's okay. John's been kind enough to be the cameraman. The next thing we want to do is we need to take all the bits and pieces out. So I've got the F1, and all we're doing is going in the anal passage. I'm being gentle here because I don't want to puncture and spoil the meat, so I'm just being very, very gentle. and making sure that I don't burst the guts on this fish. Okay, there we go. Once you start getting up, it gets easier. So there we go. You know what, it's YouTube. Some people are offended by this kind of thing, so what I'm going to do is I'll just come off a camera, and basically it's a case of getting your hand in and cleaning it out. There's just nothing like that, but I'm going to do it across at the fire, because I understand some people who are watching this will find it distasteful. So basically we clean all of that out and we get it out as best as we can. Now, because I'm lying down, it's not so easy. There is a blood channel in there. You just pop it and that should work fine. And what we'll do is we'll clean that fish up in a minute. Once we get back, I'll show you where we've got to with the millbank bag, and we'll clean the cavity out of that fish. The next thing we have to do is at the back of the head. We need to cut through the back of the head, but we don't want to cut through the bone, the backbone of the fish, and we want to come down and round. Okay, same on the other side. I'll turn it over. I want to cut through the back, down and round, just behind the gills. Once you've done that, pop the knife in there. I think we're getting company, something flying around there. Now be very careful, because I actually shouldn't be doing this lying down, but it's easier for me to do on the camera. And there we go, we've just cut through that. And then it's starting to get a little bit grubby from the ground, but that's alright, we're going to clean it up. And then we want to do exactly the same at the bottom. Again, cut through the back, but not through the backbone. Round and through. Same again here, round and through, like there. You should be able to feel that backbone in there. Yep. The next thing we want to do, and this is the bit that people don't particularly like, you can feel the backbone, and all I'm doing is I'm using my 2 fingers and I'm levering down, and I can actually feel all the spines on this fish. And what I'm doing is levering the flesh, or rather the spine, out of the flesh. Okay, and hopefully what we're going to end up with is, if you just bear with me, a wee bone there. Okay, kind of stuck there because I've went too far, so I'll just cut that bit there through. And then what's happened is the fillet's opened up. Here's the fish's head and the skeleton, and then we're just peeling that straight out of there. So we end up with the Tom and Jerry type looking fish. Head, tail, with all the bones on. And what we should be left with is a pretty much perfect fillet of fish. And I'll put that down there. Have you got that there, John?
Yes.
Can you see that? If you could possibly hand me that steel mug over, yeah, and if you could just stick it in front of the camera just to show the, you can see, can you see that that's pure water in there now, yeah? And if you want to just pour a bit over that, John, just to clean it up, if you would please, and also a bit on my hands. We'll clean that up. There we go. I'll just clean my hands a bit and a bit on there, because we're ideally, in an ideal world, if you were next to a river, you would just take that away and clean it up, but we're just rolling with what we've got. Again, this is just to prove that it can be done. So we've got that. It's going to be cooked anyway, so there's not a particular problem there. And just let me clean my hands on the bottom of my trousers. I'll be smelling nice tonight. So the next thing we've got is the stick, and the reason I've done this, I pre-done it so I wasn't doing it in the dark. I don't like using cutting tools in the dark, so I've done this earlier on.